Today we're talking about how to tell effective stories. Well, hello there, it's Tom Jackobs again, tomjacobs.com. If you haven't visited the website, please do so. There's a lot of resources and blog articles there that I'm sure you will enjoy. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel by clicking on the little subscribe button there. So let's dive right into today's topic, how to tell an effective story. So there's really 4 things that you need to be thinking about when crafting your story. And I say crafting your story because it should always be written down first and rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed. You should never come up with a story off the cuff or off the top of your head, because it just won't have the same impact, because it's not crafted in the right way if you're just talking off the cuff. So what are the 4 different areas? The first thing that you have to do is create a connection with your audience. So what does that mean? Well, that means that you are telling a story with emotion, with impact, being vulnerable, not being afraid of some of those quote-unquote embarrassing moments that might have happened in your life that relate to the story that you are telling. So making that connection is number 1 and very, very important. The second thing that you have to do is get their attention right from the start. That's what I call an impact sentence. So it's that very first sentence that comes out of your mouth when you step on stage that's going to create a connection and get the audience's attention right away. So many speakers come out on stage and they say, well, thank you so much for having me. It's a beautiful day today. And they blah, 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 blah. And it's right away, people are like pulling out their phones, looking at Facebook and trying to do something other than listen to the speaker. But if you get up there and you start your story with, the other day, I was crying at my desk. Like, oh, well, that's different. Or have you ever had a dream snatched out of your hands? A question. It starts to get those brain chemistry working in your prospects and in your audience. And so they're automatically engaged. So step number 2 is you got to get engaged with the audience right away. And that's getting their attention with the very first sentence. The third very important thing that you need to create in your story is what lessons that you learn because of the story. This is critical because in the next step, we'll talk about how you relate that then to the product or the service that you are ultimately selling. Because it's that what you learned is very important, because that's why you have the product or the service. That's the purpose of telling the story, is to get people to buy into your idea, to buy your product, to buy your service. So you have to relate what you learned from this story back to the product and the service that you're selling. And step number 4 is really integrated. I probably should have named it like 3B because it's so much related to the previous point, where you're relating the story back to the product and what you have learned. First, you want to make sure that you are learning something and you're telling the audience what you learned from the story. And then the second part of that, or 4th piece there, is to relate it back to the product or the service that you're ultimately selling. What that might sound like is, certainly one of my signature stories is sitting at my desk and having to make that phone call to get some money to make payroll and to pay rent for the month. And if you want to hear that story, just look back in the archives here on YouTube, and that story will be there. But what I learned from that is that it is very important to sell and use stories to sell. That's what I portray as my learning from that story. And then the last piece is, how do I connect this with what I'm selling, which is my Dramatic Impact Storytelling Academy and my How to Always Be Selling Academy and Impact Sales System that I sell, and the education that I do. So it's always any story that I tell is relating back to one of those 2 products. So there you go. Make sure that those 4 elements are in every story that you are telling, and let me know how that works out for you. Make some comments below, like the video, make some comments. I really appreciate it. And until next time, have a great day.